Thank you. Okay, so we're going to call the Council Budget Committee to order for October the 26th. And 2.0 is presentations. We have 2.1 request for funding, and that is going to be started off with Lucy. So whenever you're ready, Lucy, please.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor Brown and members of the Council Budget Committee. So as a result of the resolution put forth at the October 4th Council meeting, staff have brought forward the Airdrie and Area Health Benefits Cooperative request for funding. Council did ask that the cooperative provide further information. The information attached to the request was received from the cooperative last week Wednesday. The agenda report considers methods for the $100,000 request for 2016, and as noted, the request for the 2017 grant funding will be brought forward to the committee through the proposed budget. So with respect to the potential funding for the $100,000, I have some up-to-date information for the committee that wasn't available to me when I was writing the report, and that has to do with our projections for quarter 3, okay? So we do have the ability to cover the $100,000 within the 2016 budget with the projected savings. So given that those figures, those projections aren't quite finalized yet, our early figures are indicating a surplus of approximately $1.8 million, and is a result of those mitigation measures that we put in place by administration at that first quarter. And building inspection planning revenue is projected to be closer to the target. So we'll be bringing the whole report soon, but what I just wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of is that there is room inside the 2016 budget in order to be able to accommodate the $100,000. In the last section of the report, we did provide information related to the typical process used for the community group requests for grants. So I'll just leave those for the committee's for the committee's consideration. And I will note that I do believe the cooperative will soon become a legal entity. So with that, if I could, staff would like to make a change to the recommendation and ask that Council Budget Committee recommend to Council that the $100,000 be funded from the 2016 operating budget through the use of surplus dollars. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Lucy. Is either Dawn or Julian going to be presenting? Only if there's questions directed at them, correct? Okay, perfect. Any questions from the committee? Comments?
Just
yes, Councillor Chapter.
Your Worship, I'm just curious, how close are you to getting the foundation in place or whatever has to be done?
Yes, so we're about 3 weeks away from incorporating the health cooperative. So
everything's moving, doesn't look like any snags, everything's going to be fine.
No, we're just working on the bylaws and the.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Yes, Councillor Coulson.
Thank you. I'm not sure, I think this would be more for Lucy about just sort of in regards to risk management, just because we don't have a corporate entity now and moving forward, we're not sure exactly what that looks like. Was there any thought given to that, or are we're confident that the funds will be used well? We see the report here, and it's unfortunate, to understand the detail in other grants and contributions. And
sorry, Councillor Coulson, are you looking for the establishment of that cooperative? To what Julian said?
Just the risk management as far as the city is concerned without having the establishment there. Or is that more towards the next ask, which will be coming for 2017?
I'll just add a couple of thoughts to that through the chair. It'll be a council decision whether the $100,000 is paid out as a grant, is distributed as a grant. As a municipality, we do need, in order to be able to actually distribute those funds, there needs to be a legal entity in place to distribute the funds. We won't be able to write a check to an individual, for example.
I see. Okay.
So it needs to occur before the funds can be distributed.
So how are we distributing funds before? We were just writing them directly to the contractors. Is that not going to be the process moving forward?
If I can defer that question to Mr. Schultz around them, I'm assuming that you're referring to the initial amount of the $50,000.
Yeah, through your worship, it was a bit of an unorthodox way that we did that. I think with the mayor and myself being on the subcommittee, the first part of the money was done in collaboration with the provincial government, and I utilized their staff to say the outcomes had been met so that the city matched their dollars in terms of paying it. For the remaining dollars, just between Mayor Brown and myself, knowing the work that had to be done, we did pay, I guess, one-off consultants or based on I guess, the expectations and outcomes, and that's how we balance. It's not ideal, and certainly in my conversations with Mr. Hamilton, really pushed to have an entity so it could be more like a granting recipient.
Okay, so sorry, through the chair, going back then to Mr. Bell and Dr. Kine, as far as not having paid people for their work, I was just kind of confused. I looked through the report and I see that like Big Bear Tech had been paid and those types of consultants. So what is outstanding as of right now?
So what's really outstanding is probably the payment to some of the consultants. So Fenwick and Associates is the consulting group. We also have legal fees that are pending around the setup of the co-op, the actual response to the provincial government around health cooperatives being in compliance with the acts, the various acts, both the Canada Health Act and provincial statutes and the like. So
you have assurance then that moving forward, once you have your board set up, that Alberta Health is not going to take issue or kind of ignore the efforts that you're trying to do?
Yeah. So what's happened is that there are health cooperatives across Canada. There's just no sizable health co-op in Alberta, but yeah, the legal opinion. So we're actually meeting with the Deputy Minister on November the 24th to just go over the final things. But yes, we're absolutely sure that this is absolutely not in contravention.
So moving forward, we're not going to do what we did previously. The funds will only be distributed once everything is settled and set up.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess to the question, Lucy, if it is unanimous to support it, or sorry, approved to go back to council, what's the time frame? Would it come back for the first meeting in November, or would it be middle of the month? Because I'm hoping they'll be established by the time it comes back, and if that's the direction of council and budget committee.
I certainly think that it can come back to the second meeting in November.
Okay, that's perfect. And the other piece is, Councillor Coulson, there was some talk that they would establish their group through the Airdrie Health Foundation. Unfortunately, their deliverables are governed by Alberta Health Services, so we couldn't use that as an option. That's why we've gone this route.
And
Makes
through
the
the
most
chair, the
Yes.
$300,000 ask is coming next year, or are we going to deal with it during budget deliberations this year?
Yes, we're going to be dealing with it with budget deliberations this year.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
The immediacy is on the $100,000 for 2016, and if we amend the operating budget to include it. Okay, any other questions yes, Councillor Bellick.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I just remember at your presentation a couple of meetings ago that you were saying that you were going to be looking for an executive director, and is his or her wages coming out of the $100,000?
Yes, so if you look at item, sorry, I'll get down to, yes, there's a small portion, I think it's 5,000. It's really the bulk, the 55,000 for next year, and that's a portion.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other details required? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor Burley.
Then I'll make a motion, Your Worship, that the Council Budget Committee recommends to Council that the $100,000 grant requested by the Airdrie and Area Health Cooperative be funded from the 2016 surplus.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And before we move on to 2.2, I'm going to ask Lucy, she wanted to do a little bit of a prelim to tonight, and whenever you're ready, Lucy.
You just have 1 minute, please. So good evening again. Mayor Brown and members of the Council Budget Committee, this evening is the official start to the 2017 budget deliberations. We are currently in dynamic times in Alberta and in this city. It is during times such as these that working within the principles of strong financial, fiscal management is most important. For 2017, the proposed budget includes $130 million for the operating budget, and the capital budget is $39.4 million. If we reflect the capital budget in terms of 2016, Council approved of $56 million, 2017 projected projects and capital costs are lower by about $16 million. So just to put in perspective where we are in the process, the operating budget is in the final process of being completed right now. It will be delivered to Council on November 7th, and deliberation will take place on the 25th and the 26th of November. The committee this evening will receive the required presentations from our 2 subsidiaries, APL and AHL. And the capital budget, it was delivered to the committee on October 17th, and the plan is to deliberate over 3 days this evening, the 28th and the 29th being Friday and Saturday. So 6 items on the agenda for this evening, and we've already dealt with number 1, that's including the health co-op. So we have until shortly after 8 o'clock. The bulk of this evening is dedicated to the presentations from APL and AHL, and having that opportunity for the committee to ask any questions related to the requests that they will be putting forward. So if we can have those subsidiaries come forward with their parts, and then post that, if we come back, I have an overview for the capital budget, and I'll just touch on the process that we use to deliberate capital. The intent is to get it right into those departmental presentations with the schedule for Friday and Saturday. And Pelkey has some copies of the schedule for you, and I do believe that Mayor Brown would like to just talk about that schedule at the end of the meeting today. So with that, if we can just have, I see that our order has changed a little bit because we don't see the library people here yet, but maybe we can switch things around so that housing can go first and library can possibly go as number 4 then, if that's all right.
That works for me. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you, Mayor Brown and Council Budget Committee for giving Airdrie Housing Limited the opportunity to speak to you this evening and to present to you our 2017 budget. My name is Shelley Sweet, and sitting next to me are board members Michelle Locke and Helen Shields. We had a couple of other board members scheduled to arrive tonight, but we're going early, so they're going to miss it. And that would be Elaine McKee, Richard Horn, and unavailable tonight are board members Sean Monahan. I would also like to recognize our board chair, Fred Burley, and our council representative, Ron Chapman, sitting here tonight. So at this time, I would like to express the appreciation of the board for council's continued support and acknowledgement of the importance of affordable housing in our community. I always like to remind council of the mission of Airdrie Housing, which is to facilitate and manage affordable housing to meet the diverse needs of our community. The 2017 budget is based on the following revenue and expenditure assumptions. For revenue, the rental income is based on a 10% vacancy rate. This allows for economic impact of unit improvements, lag time between tenants, and also allows for absorption of an evolving rental rate ratio between market and non-market tenants. There's a $10,000 increase in the City of Airdrie grant request from $150,000 to $160,000, and an addition of $4,000 in interest revenue due to the depletion of grant funds from the operating account. On the expense side, the COLA, if approved, is based on the city's yearly percentage of 1%. There's a slight increase in property taxes and condo fees. There's the addition of property taxes for the RCMP site at $4,690, and an additional estimated costs for extra recycling bin in accordance with the new multifamily bylaw to take effect in 2017. The 2017 budget follows closely the 2016 budget. There is a slight increase in revenue due to the fluid nature of the market, non-market rental mix of $800, combined with additional new expenses for property taxes and a more robust waste management service, as well as the tightening of any soft areas on the operating side. The expenses over revenue was in a shortfall position. This situation prompted the board to request an additional $10,000 in our operating grant. Airdrie Housing has not made a request for additional funds since 2011. During that time, we have been maintaining service levels and absorbing market fluctuations. A lowered interest rate on our mortgage, adjusted property management fees, along with the cessation of the Rent Plus Supplement program, helped to lower expenses so that we could bear increased costs in other areas. With no such adjustments applicable in 2017, we are making this request in the hopes that we will not have to pass this increase in costs onto our tenants. Rental unit expenses are based on previous year actuals and utilized a 3% inflation rate where appropriate. These incorporated anticipated increases in property taxes, insurance, condo fees, utilities, and increased maintenance costs, particularly for the condo units. At 6 years and 11 years of age, they are showing signs of fatigue and require more maintenance expense. All in all, this is a very stable budget with very little change from 2016, which is currently performing on track. Our 2017 business plan is focused on the new housing development and the 3-story mixed-use building. So the main focus of our business plan for 2016 was to complete the pre-development design and start the construction phase of the 3-story mixed-use building that will occupy the former RCMP lands on Edmonton Trail. In the spring of 2016, the project became stalled due to the exit of the second floor anchor tenant. Since that time, the board has been exploring a number of options. Some have been eliminated and others are being more closely examined. During this time, one thing remains constant, and that is the need for affordable housing in our community and to find a sustainable way of providing that housing. The board is very open to new partnerships and unique opportunities. However, they do want to make sure that they take the time to make informed and responsible decisions. 2017 is about finding the right connections and redefining the project to move forward, utilizing the following 3 key initiatives. 1, we are requesting a textual amendment to the zoning bylaw in order to increase the residential component from 21 to 38 units. There is a community engagement process attached to this request, so we will be consulting with the surrounding neighbors with regards to this. Being a good neighbor and including the community in the process is very important to the board. We are anticipating that this part of the project will be completed by the end of the first quarter 2017. Currently, the amendment application as well as the development permit application have been placed on hold for 6 months to allow the board time to explore their options fully. This process can also be reactivated at any time. No final decision has been made at this time as to whether or not the board will utilize the extra residential component, but it will offer maximum flexibility as new design options are explored. 2, We will be actively seeking further grant funding to minimize the financial stress on the organization. It's been a while, but finally there are some funding vehicles that are anticipated to make an appearance on the provincial side in the spring of 2017. The Department of Seniors and Housing has announced that they are completing a new capital initiatives program along with new housing design guidelines and will begin accepting applications by April 2017. Additionally, CMHC is rolling out some new programs designed to assist in the development of affordable housing, with particular emphasis on innovative design and environmental initiatives. It should also be mentioned that the city is about to start a housing needs assessment this fall that will provide us with excellent data to use when making applications. One of the key conditions in order for this project to move forward is for it to be financially sustainable and also for the organization to be financially sustainable. The board will not be accessing or utilizing any further funds until such time as they are comfortable with the financial model. They will not put the organization at risk. We will be open to opportunities for community building and meeting community need. One of the most appealing features of this project concept was its community component. It was always envisioned as a building that not only was meeting a community need, but was welcoming to the neighborhood, incorporating connecting pathways and sitting spaces that could be utilized by everyone. We would like to think that that component is not lost, that there is a way that we can connect with another partner or community group in need of a home. We have had conversations with some potential partners, but with so much uncertainty at this time, it's too early to make any firm commitments. But this direction, this idea that this building could be something unique and completely Airdronian is very much desirable, and we'll continue to pursue making those community connections that may ultimately result in a great partnership. This work is ongoing. It should also be mentioned that the relationships with our project managers, designer, and builder for this project remain strong, and they are hanging in there with us until such time as the board gives further direction. In 2017, we'll also maintain focus on our organizational excellence, service to clients, asset management, and program delivery for Airdrie citizens in need for 2017. Despite the economic downturn and according to the most recent CMHC rental report, average rent for two-bedroom structures in the Calgary CMA, which includes Airdrie, has increased to $13.32 per month, even though the vacancy rate has increased to 5.3%. While there is considerable choice in Airdrie for the market renter, housing choice for persons on low income in Airdrie is extremely limited, further cementing the need for more affordable units. As we transition into this new phase of housing delivery and development for Airdrie Housing Limited, we are reminded of how far we have come and the challenges that lie ahead. We thank this current council for its continued support and understanding of the diverse nature of a vibrant, growing community and for championing inclusivity and compassion into the public conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Sorry. Any questions or comments for Shelley or any of her board members here? Yes, Councillor Coulson.
Well, I just wanted to say, knowing the responsibility that the board is undertaking as far as the old police site and what can happen there, I just wanted to commend you all that knowing what your numbers are and moving forward with your original mandate, I think it's going to do great things for Airdrie Housing. So
Thanks, Candace.
just a statement I felt I needed to say.
Well, a couple of answers to that question. At the time the building was demolished, we were still on track to build, and Community Links was still part of the project. So we were moving forward. The building itself was completely destroyed. The fire department had been using it, so it was not habitable.
So there was no availability for lease or anything?
No.
Okay. I had that question and I couldn't answer it, so I appreciate that very much.
No, it was, yeah.
Okay, no, that's great. Any other comments or questions for anybody? Yes, Councillor Hunter.
So I guess the question I would have on that, segue to Mayor Brown's question is, so if the decision was to demolish it because Community Links was on board, what does that mean? What was the commitment? Because typically, so in my projects, if someone's on board, I have letters in place, deposits in place, things like that. Was that a verbal commitment, or was that anything that was in writing?
Yeah, it was a verbal commitment at that time, and we had a letter of support at that time. However, we were working very closely together and in good faith. They were presented with a letter of intent, and after that time, other conversations started happening. But during the early phases, the demolition was always a part of the project because you could not use the current building that was there. So, yeah.
Thanks very much.
Excellent. Any other comments?
Your worship?
Yes,
If
Councillor Chapman.
I could just add to that, I know when this all came about and we let the fire department have their way, shall we say, with that building, it basically had to come down because it wouldn't have been secure. The roof was missing, parts of the roof were missing out of that building. It would have been, somebody gets on the roof, they would have had access to that building. So that building had to come down.
Yeah, I completely forgot that we gave them the carte blanche on that building, so thanks for the clarity. Any other comments? No? Okay. Councillor Burley, you want to make a motion,
I'll
please?
make a motion that we accept the report for information and include the Airdrie Housing Limited's request in the 2017 budget deliberations.
Excellent. All those in favor? All those in favor? Please, sorry again. Just want to count hands. Yep. Okay. So Councillor Hunter is going to abstain because he missed the first part of the presentation. It's unanimous with I'm supporting it. So one abstention and everybody else was supportive. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to your crew for coming in. And I believe we see people that we recognize from APL. Do you want to move it back into that order again, Lucy? Perfect. Whenever you're ready, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Honourable Mayor Brown, councillors, city staff, and public for your time this evening while we present the 2017 Airdrie Public Library budget. I would like to introduce a few folks to you tonight. First of all, our director, Pam Medland, board trustee, Tanner DeRosier, and myself, Dustin Fidan, chair of Finance Committee and trustee. Please allow me to hand it over to Pam, who is going to present our 2017 plan of service.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm going to focus this evening on our successes in 2015, our current projects, and our plans for 2017 in terms of services and programs. Okay, so, nope, what am I doing wrong? It's just this button to click forward. Okay. Not working. Looks like it's on. I'll just leave it up. Thank you so much. There we go. Okay, thank you. So in 2015, we had 12,757 visits to our preschool literacy programs and 2,313 child visits to the summer reading program. Those two programs are the foundation of our efforts to create young readers in the community. However, our Traveling Tales and Tunes, which is an outreach preschool literacy program offered in partnership with Community Links and Rocky View Schools Adult Learning, is another very important program for us, and we were thrilled to receive in 2015 a Minister's Award for Excellence for this partnership. In 2016, we added 2 new schools to our Traveling Tales and Tunes outreach, and also launched a Reading Buddies program that matches teenagers with school-aged children for paired reading. In 2017, we will continue the Books for Babies program that we launched earlier this year. This program introduces new babies and their caregivers to books, language, and the joy of reading, being read to, through the distribution of a free board book and early childhood literacy package to every new child born in Airdrie and the surrounding Alberta Health Service catchment area. In 2015, the library answered 22,690 questions and requests for help, while more than 23,000 computer sessions were logged on library computers. Last year, we added an additional book club, held voter engagement events, and increased the number of one-on-one computer tutoring sessions that we offered both inside the library and off-site at senior housing centers. In 2016, we made 3D printing available to the community. We increased our digital literacy programming, and we responded to the economic climate by adding job search and resume writing programs. In late 2016 and into the spring of 2017, we will be using a federal grant to hire a youth to help us develop 3D printer and multimedia software programming as part of our effort to increase digital literacy in our community. In 2015, an astounding 28,641 people attended 1,676 programs in the library. Thanks to the new outreach coordinator that we hired in late 2015, the library has greatly strengthened its connection to Airdrie teens, both in the schools and through the expanded teen programming we are now offering at the library. The Library Whisperers, the teen advisory group that we established this spring, is helping us focus on events and activities of particular interest to this age group. In addition to new teen art programming, in 2016, the library continued its vibrant schedule of art exhibits and cultural programming, including author readings and creative writing workshops. In 2017, we are looking forward to promoting the new Alberta ebook database that is being developed by the province of Alberta in partnership with the Book Publishers Association of Alberta. And this will be part of our author reading series. Airdrie Public Library has volunteered to be a test site for this database launch that is expected early in the new year. In 2015, the library loaned 469,986 items, more than 25,000 of which were borrowed as digital downloads. In 2016, the library is producing a series of videos with visual and verbal instruction on how to access and use the library's online resources in order to help us continue to grow this area of our service. This year, we also added community organization profiles to the library's catalog so that Airdrie organizations can now be searched for online from home or at the library. In 2017, we plan to continue promoting awareness of the wealth of resources available to Airdrie citizens in hard and digital format through their local public library. In 2015, the library hosted 173,788 in-branch visits. There were 101,178 visits to the library website. Library visits increased by 7% last year, while website visits increased 13%. The trend to increased visits continues in 2016, despite our crowded conditions. People come to the library to read, study, research, learn, imagine, create, play, engage, and enjoy themselves. Thanks to our new library van, we were able to add story times in local parks to our program offerings this summer. In 2017, we will continue to seek innovative ways to address our current lack of space, including adding to our smart lockers pickup service at Genesis Place. And just a note on that service, it's very brisk. It's only been launched since May. We're currently experiencing 75% capacity, meaning that the lockers are full, 75% of the lockers are full at any given time. And we're currently circulating about 300 items per month out of the smart lockers. The maximum possible circulation of the current number of lockers is 450, so we're very pleased. So finally, we just want to say thank you very much for your support before we turn it over to the more in-depth discussion of the dollars and cents. The Airdrie Public Library realizes there are many demands for public funds in a growing community. We appreciate the ongoing support from the City of Airdrie that makes it possible for the library to be an essential informational, educational, and cultural hub in our community. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam. So I appreciate your time this evening. I wanted to share a couple of really key performance metrics from this past year with regards to the library. I know that one of the things that's an interesting milestone is how many cardholders that we have. 2016, by the end of the year, we're projected to surpass 20,000 active memberships in the community. And actually, this is going to represent probably the first year where we have circulated over 500,000 items from the library and obviously from our smart lockers as well. All of that really couldn't take place without the volunteers. We have some fantastic support in the community, and I want to recognize the 2,400 plus hours that our community will put into the library in support of that. Overall, when we take all of our key measures into account, our overall service increased by about 6.92% in the last 12 months year over year, about approximately double of the Airdrie population estimated growth over the same time period. A couple of emerging trends and issues to share with you with regards to the public library today. As Pam highlighted very quickly there, the biggest thing that really continues to challenge us, obviously, is facility size. I know that there's nobody on this council who's not aware of that challenge. But one of the things this year that actually has impacted our business is we've had to introduce caps to our programs throughout the year to ensure building code compliance. There were a number of programs we ran early in the year where we exceeded building code. That's obviously a substantial issue for us. So looking at our programming numbers, that's a place we anticipate remaining flat in increase over the next few years until such time as we have more space to do that. The library van, donated by Airdrie Dodge here in April, has enabled us to increase outreach programming. So we've had great programs like Summer Stories in the Park, which is a great example of the new possibilities that we're exploring to grow, finding ways to increase our outreach to the community despite those space limitations. As Pam mentioned, the smart locker has been brisk, and we're hoping to increase the amount of pickup that we have in those materials offsite, as well as expanding the amount of lockers that we have once we get much nearer to capacity. One of the other comments that I wanted to share with you is free library membership is a growing trend. I'm not certain if everyone on our council is aware that, honestly, Airdrie Public Library is now in the vast majority of libraries across Canada that continues to charge for memberships. And part of our budget this year does have membership fees for seniors, youth, and students in 2017 being at no charge, moving down that same path as our national counterparts. From our agenda report, I wanted to share our little bit of background. All of our current performance output measures are on target to increase in 2016, with the exception of our program and service attendees, which have reach maximum capacity. What is notable, though, is the continued rise in our circulation numbers, despite the fact that our collection is considerably below the recommended provincial standards and about half of many of our benchmark other libraries in the province based on our size. It is truly not possible to grow our collection any further in our facility. Our satisfaction scores have remained flat, but very high year over year. We've maintained the same in our Airdrie Citizen Satisfaction Survey, about 72% satisfaction with the library program service that we've offered. Again, considering that we have had to cap programs and we're turning clients away at this point. I'm very pleased that with the commitment that Pam and the remainder of our library staff have shown to maintain that number. Population growth and the increased demand for library service in this facility continues to be our biggest challenge. Looking at our 2017 budget today, our revenues this year are anticipated to be up 5.65%. There are two major components to that, one being the provincial operating grant, which has been increased substantially this year, as well as the Marigold operating grant being higher than previously budgeted. We're also anticipating about a 10.8% increase in membership and fees, and due to a number of factors, economics being one of them, we're anticipating a 15% decrease in budgeted sponsorship. Our expenditures for this coming year, our largest line continues to be obviously personnel, where we do have 27.3 FTE, which is made up of only 9 full-timers, and the remainder of our team is part-time. The largest component of that, so it's about a 6.4% increase in personnel costs, which is mostly made up of the increase in cost of living allowance, which matches the city at 1% this year, and then some other market adjustments. From an administration standpoint, we do have an 8.8 budgeted increase this year. There are two big pieces that play into that. So first of all, the increased Marigold service fees due to the larger population size, which has been adjusted, which is related to the increased revenue line from earlier. The new costs for our delivery van. So obviously there are maintenance costs and insurance costs that go along with that. So that's included. Finally, one other part that does play a part there is we have made the decision to outsource our website and social media administration. The cost actually comes in very close to what we've been previously paying for that, but it is worth noting that's something we've made the decision to do to outsource. From a programming standpoint, our total costs are going to decrease substantially, about 19% year over year. We were able to really spend time digging into our numbers and expenses here, and we found some great efficiencies and utilizing a little bit stricter accounting for our preschool and school age programming. We were able to find ways to reduce travel and preparatory time, so we were able to save on some staff expenditure there. Secondly, there's a reduction in the Books for Babies programming. Pam did highlight that program. Our original estimates when we started that this year actually were much higher than we had ultimately required. So we're happy to be able to reduce the cost to that program for this year while maintaining a great level of service to it. So our City of Airdrie operating grant overall will result in about a 5.18% increase year over year compared to 2016. The City of Airdrie building grant is up 11.3%. The vast majority is, I believe the entire cost of that is regarding the MSQ common costs. When I break that down for you on a per capita support standpoint, in 2016, without our facility, we were about $24.11 without our facility. With the facility, I do have a small correction to the document you may be looking at right now. The document currently reads $24.7 with the facility. Those two numbers, the 7 and the 4, were actually transposed somehow. So that should actually read 27.4 was in 2016 with the facility. Comparatively, in 2017, without the facility, will be about $24.50, which represents a 39-cent per capita increase. Including the facility, that puts it at $28.04. So overall, we're looking at a 64-cent per capita increase for our budget. With that, I'll make our recommendation that the Council accept the report for information and that the request for Airdrie Public Library grant dollars be included in the 2017 Airdrie budget. And we're happy to take your questions and comments at this time.
Thank you, Dustin. Comments or questions from Council, please. Councillor Chapman.
Just a quick question, Dustin. And I found the number to be, and I've always found this number quite high. The library visits, how do they register? How do you measure library visits?
You know what, Ron, that's a fantastic question, and I know that we had that question last year as well. So the way we work is we actually have a laser gate count, which actually records every single patron that enters our library or leaves our library via that laser. A couple of important things to note when you think about that number. First of all, our staff actually have their own dedicated entrance. Our deliveries and things like that obviously have their additional entrance as well. So those aren't included in our gate count numbers. That's probably the part to know about that. If I may, this screenshot that you have in front of you right now gives a little bit of a comparative for the other kind of similar libraries to our size. If you look at the annual library visits, which is about the 5th number down there, compared to, say, St. Albert, who has a very similar population, a smaller cardholder base, you'll see that their library visits actually double ours. In a lot of ways, that's very reflective of the fact that the St. Albert Library has a space where they have a little bit more, space to actually hold more programming, have more seating areas, more comfortable spaces for people to learn, become more literate, have tutoring sessions, things like that. So their library visits is about double ours comparatively for that.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry, Dustin, just so would they get you coming and going? So you come in the front door and then they count you leaving? Is that what you said? Sorry, Pam, you have to turn your mic on, please.
My apologies. We have a formula that calculates for the coming and going and also calculates for arms and legs. So it's as accurate as you can get with a manual laser
Okay, so the 173,000 visits plus are counted on the way in only? Because you mentioned you were counting on the way out.
No, the laser beam will register entrances and exits, and then we adjust so that we're counting a single visit. One entrance and one exit.
So the number would be a
counts as
heck of a
single
lot.
visit.
It would be double that then if you were looking at it.
No,
Okay.
no. We believe that 173,788 is an accurate count of a single entrance and exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. Councillor Bellick.
Yes, through the chair, I'd just like to address the card holders. So you mentioned you were giving out free memberships, free card holders. So how many of those, do you have a breakdown of how many of those were actually paid for?
We do calculate that, but I would, to give you an accurate number, I would have to go back and I can provide that to council. In 2016, we currently have several free membership programs that we're running to capture school-aged children. It's grade 1s and 5s. Yeah, currently grade 1 students in Airdrie and also grade 5 students in Airdrie have access to a free library membership.
Right.
Other than that, the number of free memberships that we give out is relatively small. We do have provisions for families in need. They can come and request a free membership. But otherwise, the majority of the memberships currently are paid memberships.
Thank you.
Councillor Hunter.
Through the chair, can you tell me, so the Smart Locker program, can you tell me what, if any, the difference that's made in visits? So I'm assuming if people can now get them dropped off and delivered, they would be not visiting the site as frequently. So is there any way of gauging that or kind of getting a sense of where that's at?
Well, in-branch visits were up 7% in 2015, and year-to-date for 2016, our visits are above what they were in 2015. So we are anticipating an increase in visits for our measures in 2016. We count the circulation of items from the lockers, single items. So a visit to somebody visiting the lockers may be removing more than one item. In fact, that's probably the case. For most of the loans, it's more than one item. I'm not aware of a way to actually count the number of people going to the smart lockers, short of doing an observation.
So I guess so if you're tracking your numbers, your increase, if you're getting increases in the building itself and you're getting 75% activity on your smart lockers, in my mind, your increase in service is actually more than just your building. It's that plus the smart lockers. And I can see in this economy, libraries tend to become a place where people can gather that's cost effective and things like that, whether it be resumes, whether it be networking and things like that. So I can anticipate you're going to have more issues with your building code and your numbers and fire code, things like that. Because to me, the smart lockers are just a satellite library destination, so that in my mind would increase your numbers significantly. They didn't come to that location, but they're still using the books that come out of that location and those kind of things. So be interested to see if there is a way to kind of track that in. So if the people that are using it, are you using that instead of coming into the facility? Because I would think sometimes I've been in there when it's very busy, that might become a preferred option for people rather than coming into a place that's overburdened. They might decide that, well, maybe that smart locker is just the way to go.
Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion.
Councillor Burley.
Oh, I didn't realize I turned my light on, but I will ask a question.
Okay.
With the percentage of local, what we donate is 57% of your budget. What the city's grant amounts to 57%. And I see that Grand Prairie is only 35. Do we know where they get most of the revenue from then? Like, what's their other sources of revenue there that's different than ours? Any idea? Like, we're at 57%. Our grant allocation is 57% of your revenue. Okay. Theirs is only 35. Do we know where they're getting their extra revenue from?
One of the things that I think is being reflected there is the fact that Grand Prairie does not have to pay for facilities. The city provides the facility free of cost. Okay. They also provide security and janitorial and utility costs.
Okay. Thank you.
Pam, congratulations on the Tales and Tunes. Just curious, you said you added 2 more schools. How many schools do you currently go to? The total, what's the total number? Sorry if I missed that.
I think I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm of the impression that we are operating out of 9 sites, but I would have to confirm.
Oh, that's great. Just question on the card hold. So of the 19,019, do you guys track how many actually take a book out or use a service? Like how many would be dormant or cards that never get used? Do you guys track that?
We remove dormant cards according to a provincial standard. So those 19,000 and change represent active cards that have had a transaction. It does.
Sorry, in the last year, is that how it works?
It's a 2-year purge.
So okay, so for 2 years, then you go okay. So if somebody doesn't use the card, then you eliminate the number.
That's right.
Okay. And I guess just from a community perspective, there's tons of space around town. I won't say that Genesis Place is full in all of our meeting spaces. I know Community Leagues has space. I'm sure the gathering space in the church next door. I'm disappointed to hear you guys are having the council programs. Have you investigated opportunities with the city to see if we can find space for you through the day? Because I know we're not rented out everywhere. The TNC has a small room. I'm just curious if you guys have looked into that, because I hate to hear that in the short term until a new facility is built or expanded facility or whatever gets done, that we're turning people away. If you guys have had an opportunity to talk to anybody.
We have in the past had some discussion with Genesis Place that did not result in holding programming at that location. This summer, we did cooperate and partner with Genesis Place Programming to actually lend books out of Genesis Place, and they were really pleased with the result. It's a very small tip of the iceberg in terms of the loans that we do, but at least it's a way to draw kids into interacting more with books and engaging with books. Just recently at our board meeting last night, we were discussing the possibility of approaching Genesis Place again, and I will follow up to talk to management there to see if there's any room or appetite to do some more partnering. I should say that we really like people to come through the door of the library, and there's many reasons for that. All kinds of people, not only in Airdrie but in Canadian society in general, are intimidated by a library. It's an institution in the same way that a community college is an institution. once they come through, they tend to be converts. They really love us, but we suffer. For many years, public libraries have probably not done the best job at promoting all of the programs and services and activities that are available to the community. So we love to get people through because that's the only way that they really become aware that this is available. We do our best with marketing and promotion, but there's nothing like coming through, walking down those stacks and pulling a book off the shelf. Library studies will tell us that 75% of every loan from a library, a public library, results from browsing, serendipitous browsing. It's that wonderful thing. I hope you've all had that experience of going through and just saying, wow, I didn't realize this was here. We see it every day, but we don't see it if people don't come through the doors. So much as we love the expansion of our service at Genesis Place, it's not a replacement for the full-service library.
And I'm not suggesting that at all. They still have to come through the door to discuss the opportunity. I'm just thinking if you have a group of new moms or tots or whatever that want to get together, you can organize the whole thing and then book it at space that we may have available. But again, that'd be a question for Genesis Place staff or whatever. But I still think there's, as I said, I just hate to hear that people are being turned away if we have space in town. It doesn't eliminate them from coming and checking out the library, in my opinion, but actually, Councillor Chapman has a question, and thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair, just a little bit of a clarification. The free memberships we were talking about for school-aged children, seniors, that is moving forward in 2017. That's your plan for 2017, wasn't it? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just one last thing, Pam, the 469,000 loaned, it was 25% digital downloads, right? Did I get that number right?
No, it's 25,000. It's just over 25,000.
Oh, 25,000 of the 469.
Yes.
Perfect, that makes more sense. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, excellent. Can I get a motion? Councillor Coulson, please.
That the council budget accept the report, council budget committee accept the report for information and that the request for APL grant dollars be included in the 2017 City of Airdrie budget deliberations.
Excellent. All those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you to your board for sticking around for the presentation. We're moving briskly along. Does anybody need a break, or are we good? We're going to take a 5-minute recess. So didn't you read that email from moving steadfastly along. Sorry, we're not live yet? We are now. Welcome back, everybody. So
Thank you.
We're moving over to 2.4. Lucy and Pelkey, whenever you're ready, please.
To the capital budget, and I'll just provide that overview for the committee now, as I mentioned. I'm sorry. I just keep hitting the Okay. So the capital budget overview. And first up, the 2017 Council strategic priorities. Oftentimes, moving forward on Council's priorities requires financial resources of some form. Staff ensures these elements are addressed within budgets. The purpose of this slide is to bring awareness to the 2017 capital financial resources included within the budgets in front of you. Most of the priorities have financial resources earmarked within the operating budget, with the exception of sustainable transportation and the multi-phased 40th Avenue project. More information on the priorities will be included when we bring forward the operating budget. And then next to this slide, I just have a couple of quick items on the fiscal framework section, since it is very much related to capital planning. An update to the city's existing financial policies and procedures is critical, as the city has grown very quickly over the last 10 years, and the city's business has become more complicated. Progress has been made on this initiative, however, not as much as I would have liked. Yes, we have engaged the help of a consultant to lead through the initial workshops, but we struggle as a finance group to gain the time to dedicate to accomplishing this. The day-to-day workloads are simply too high. Finance is looking to infuse an additional body into the finance group that will assist with the day-to-day pressures, and we will look to incorporate dedicated resources in different ways to assist with the actual writing and documentation. We have experienced delays in holding the council workshop, and hopefully this can be rescheduled into the new year. Staff will continue to work away on this important initiative. I am pleased with the roadmap we have developed and how we intend to strengthen controls and find efficiencies to how financial business is conducted internally as the framework is completed and implemented. Asset management, the establishment of an asset management program, a top-ranking corporate priority. Asset management will drive changes in how the City of Airdrie prepares long-term financial plans. Better asset data will inform the budget and planning process in a different way and with valuable data that can be sourced from an established asset management program. I thought it important to bring awareness to the committee as to where we are at with this initiative. This is a large undertaking for this organization, which will evolve how we acquire and take care of our assets. This work touches many departments across the organization. In fact, as we have completed the necessary analysis from a change management perspective, only 2 city departments will not be affected. Simply stated, an asset management program will allow us to know what assets we have, when they will need maintenance or replacement, begin to collect information necessary to make good decisions, and take care of the assets we have well into the future. A dedicated team has been created to deliver the desired outcomes. Good progress has been made over this last year as we have tackled level of service, got right into the federally sponsored LAMP program, and made a selection for a software tool. Implementation of an enterprise-wide work order management system will begin November 14th. Just a final post note and a reminder, it is fully expected that provincial regulations will be created in the future, which will legislate municipalities to have such programs in place. So specifically into the capital plan, capital budget.
But Lucy, can I ask you a question on the last slide?
Yep.
So on November the 14th, does that mean that every desk, every chair, every park bench, water, sewer, like this software, an employee would be able to go and say, I checked on I checked on to see where we're sitting on this. It was last watered on this day. We sprayed for insects or whatever. Like, is this software for everything or a piece of the asset management strategy, I guess is my question.
So to answer that, it's a piece of the asset management program strategy. It's not the complete package for it. The tool is just a tool. So as we roll out that tool, it begins on November 14th. It'll probably take us upwards of 8 months to actually implement that system. The main focus for it is for the operations that are 23 East Lake Hill. So we're tackling water, sewer first, our roads and our parks areas. And then they will have the functionality, a tool in place in order to be able to put their work orders out in an electronic form and start to collect data. As part of the process as well, committee's likely aware that we do have tangible capital asset data that's required from a financial statement perspective. So we do have records of our financial assets to our best of our ability at this point in time. I fully expect, and I touch on it later on in the presentation, that as we walk through this program and fully establish it, we'll be going back and making sure that we have everything. And make sure that we actually collect all the information that we deem to be necessary to make sure that we put proper preventive maintenance programs into place, and also to ensure that we have the information that we need at an SLT table, at this table, to make good decisions as you walk through a budget and planning cycle. It's going to be an evolution, and we've got a starting point now to different levels for different departments, and it'll just keep us rolling to the place where we can have a full asset management program established.
Okay, you answered my question. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hunter, and I apologize, Council, for interrupting your presentation, Lucy. Councillor Hunter.
So the question I have for asset management, we were informed today that we couldn't do some repairs on a building that had no structural integrity, and I guess my question would be, how many more facilities could we expect this to happen to before we put an asset management strategy in place that tells us the age and the condition of all of the assets across the city, and how would that be implicated in this strategy?
Well, through the chair, I'm not aware of the details of that situation, but I will say the need for an asset management program for this organization, and of course, as you're a smaller organization, it's easier to maintain the assets you have. Now we have upwards of $600 million worth of assets out there, and it gets much more difficult. That's part of the exercise as you go through. Right now, we do not have, say, condition assessment out there for. I'm not sure of the percentage, but we don't have it for everything. Part of the exercise as you go through and look to make sure that you know what assets you have, you will also be ensuring that you do those pieces around condition assessments, and those are the type of situations that you become much more aware of.
So, through the chair, do we have any idea of what percentage of assets we do know, age, condition, type?
I don't have that with me right now. We absolutely have intentions to be coming forward to council into the new year to give you an update of this whole initiative, and we can make sure that we bring that information at that time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lucy. Please continue.
So the capital budget. This graph gives you a quick idea of the dollar value associated annually with that plan. 2017 is proposing the inflated capital budget of $39.4 million. 2018 sees the plan increase to more than $50 million, and 2019 has a significant jump, no different than what existed in your 2016 plan. However, it includes those significant civic needs out there in 2019. So I just thought right at the onset, it was important to identify where the whole civic downtown master plan, how that translates into your capital plan and budgets. Just considering the status and with council's intent to give more time for the community involvement and possibly roll the concept to that greater downtown redevelopment planning work, the assumption made within budgets is reverted back to those that were there at the 2016 cycle. The civic needs are identified within the city's capital budget, as is illustrated on this slide. So of course that work that has been done feeds into better costing information, and that's reflected in these numbers. Construction projects such as these walk through 4 major phases: conceptual, pre-design, design, and construct. And some greater clarity needs to be gained from a planning perspective and the desired timing. The charts show the needs are slotted into the 10-year capital plan, and corporate properties will provide some additional information as they bring forward their presentations. Construction for both the library and civic spaces have been placemarked to occur in 2019. Design dollars for the library are currently in a carry-forward capital budget from 2015. Any potential improvements to the roadway has been slotted into 2020. And we have one parkade that is included at year 8 in this plan, and the other components of the master plan don't hit this 10-year plan. So assumptions. Assumptions related to the economy are pulled from information prepared by Calgary's economists. As the committee is aware, the city draws debt from ACFA, and this is where the staff goes to determine estimates. That's that first table there. Debenture rates, all are aware that we do continue to live in an environment that has low cost of money. The second line here just gives you an idea of the types of rates that can be pulled from ACFA if we were to pull money today, for example. Cost estimates within your plans are subject to inflation assumptions, and that's what you're seeing in the second column. Just yesterday, we were able to access the fall forecast coming out of Calgary and related to the region. Your capital budget is based on the factors that come from the spring estimate. And in the fall report, the forecasting is in the second line. It just gives us a little bit of test of how those are estimates that we've used in the capital plan, how well we did with them, how they relate to what the new updated economists are telling us right now. Interesting, over in 2019, they've now are indicating that the non-residential building price inflation index is up to 4.5%. In the coming weeks, and when the committee receives the next major capital project update, information will be provided about the reduced cost of projects recently tendered. The city is seeing the predicted results of greater competition within this, a slower economy. So grant assumptions. From a federal government side and a federal gas tax grant, some level of stability is being seen. The current contract takes us to 2024. The assumption has been made in the plan that the grant will continue into 2025 and 26. Green tip dollars for Phase 2 stream have been coordinated through the CRP and submitted to the province. MSI grant, just a reminder firstly that this grant stream now includes the basic municipal transportation grant, and it has for the last few years. The current contract the city holds for MSI dollars will expire with this 2016-17 provincial budget year. It is difficult to get a clear indication from the current government of what will come for a new granting agreement. However, the province is being clear about no additional funds being available, but have indicated that they will pay the remaining dollars committed through the existing contract over the next 3 years. This plan makes the assumption that grants to municipalities from the province will continue. However, this is a conservative approach that will see the annual allocation lowered. Again, just difficult to draw solid assumptions from what we are seeing at that provincial level. Just want to make sure the committee is aware of the assumptions made in the plan, and any feedback committee members may have from that political standpoint is appreciated. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back. So a couple more thoughts. Just historically, the city has benefited from other more one-time grant streams, and this plan does look to additional grant dollars for a new regional recreation center. It is important to be aware of this with respect to this project. This is one of those areas where a municipality, and with the changes in economies and different governments, where this project may not be able to proceed unless dollars are raised in a different way. So, and finally, I just add in as a matter of interest, the grant dollars the city currently holds in deferred revenue. The value is $22 million at the end of 2015, and this value is made up of dollars allocated to library construct. However, there is a large portion that also relates to roadways. The capital plan does demonstrate the ongoing significant infrastructure needed for this ever-growing city, and it's necessary at times to save annual grant allocations until enough funds exist to tackle some of these larger projects. Development. So although growth for 2017 is projected to be slower at 130 acres, overall the plan assumes that development activity will continue across the 10-year horizon at that more typical 165 acres. Developer levies are critical to ensuring enough funds exist to adequately fund new development-related infrastructure costs to the future. Pending changes to the MGA coming into effect next fall will hopefully allow municipalities the legal ability to levy for other growth-related needs such as fire halls and other municipal buildings. The plan assumes levy reviews will continue to be conducted every 2 years and that those reviews will result in increased levy rates. So here's a look at the overall capital plan by type of project. So over the next 3 years, you can see by this graph that engineering structures continue to make up the bulk of the capital needs in 2017, followed by building and major renovations with the construction of a transit storage facility. In 2018, land and improvements are much higher, with strategic acquisitions making up a large portion of the costs. Engineering structures still in the $22 million range. Then in 2019, buildings followed by engineering structures make up the majority of the expenditures. The 2017 capital program at that cost of $39.4 million. Top graph just shows you again the different types, with the engineering structures, of course, having that largest spread across the graph. The bottom graph shows that the majority of these funds, the funds to pay for these capital projects, are drawn from reserves, grants, and debenture. We have approximately $12 million coming from grants in 2017. So the source and use of those funds is in that 10-year summary that's in your package. Just showing 2017 to you this evening. There are a number of factors that are looked at as the plan is reviewed and rolled together. Is there funding available for the included projects? How do reserve funds look, and are they sufficient? And have debt limits been met? What is the plan telling us about long-term debt? We continue to be able to meet the needs of the community partially through leveraging debenture funding. We see debt per capita rising, however. There is a good portion of this debt that's funded through development levies. I have noted here as well that these debt figures are not on a consolidated basis. It does not include the debt that the Housing Corporation has. And this graph shows the debt rise as we make our way through the projects included in the 10-year. The committee will begin, maybe a little difficult, or it's clear. Debt per capita getting to as high at the back end of the plan, getting that high at the back end of the plan is a flag for me. I am more comfortable with debt per capita staying more in line with the median seen here of other mid-sized cities in this graph that was put out for municipal benchmarks in 2014. What the plan does is bring awareness to the issue, and we can start to make some plans to deliver the outcomes in a different way. These are our provincial debt limits, and the city works well within these levels. You can see the two lines here. This is our debt service or payments. This is what we're allowed legislatively, and the same on total debt. Self-imposed limits is more difficult to meet.
Sorry, Lucy, can you go back to that one just for a sec? I don't need to ask a question. I just want to look at it for a second. Thanks.
It's in the, just to remind you, it is another in that first summary sheet that's in the front of the book. The numbers are all in there. Yep. Good. Self-imposed limits are more difficult to meet. Over the course of the last few years, a number of debentures have been retired. And as we've demonstrated in past plans, there is some room to anticipate additional civic needs. Debt is leveraged in order to provide facilities, services for the community over the short term by paying for them over the long term. Similar to the overall debt graph that I showed two back, we do see the stresses at the back end of the plan as well. The self-imposed debt limit is 10% of the projected operating revenue, and with the assumptions of continued growth, which generates more revenue, this plan stays within the limits. This is another component of debt policy, and which will also be retested in the framework. We will look to other municipals, mid-size and larger, just to ensure that their existing methods bring enough security and mitigate risk. Development activity across the 10-year plan is significant. In order to be able to deliver the infrastructure, the engineer-prepared levy review includes the cost to finance and pay for debt. There is a lot of growth pressures expressed in this 10-year horizon. Significant projects are contemplated that are becoming more and more imperative to the community as it grows. There will be more information presented as community infrastructure delivers their specific presentation. But I want to note that staff is seeing projects not like others from past years. Specifically, projects such as those anticipated to provide grade separations, both at Yankee Valley and at Veterans, has components that will not be covered through development levies, but rather will need to be funded from the tax base or other grants. There's no specific reserve dollars, in other words, savings, currently exist in the city's equity to help with such needs. From a framework perspective, this is a mid-sized city issue, and staff will look to strengthen the guiding principles. I do want to note that in this year, in year 10 of this plan, an additional water line has been identified. This line has not been considered in our existing levies, and it's part of the reason the graph is looking as it is at year 10. Such as this water line will more likely be maybe 100%, maybe something less, identified to be part of new development that comes in the city, and more than likely will be included into future development levy reviews, and that'll make that look better. So in this overview, I have shown only 2 of our reserves, and of course the city has many other capital reserves, with their balances being in your package. The funding process calls for planning and using the specific capital reserves up first for projects. And if there are no dollars left in the specific fund, the general capital reserve is used. Historically, these are the typical type picture of general operating and general capital reserve graph. The committee is probably quite familiar with it. And as for a capital reserve, the plan pretty much uses it all up and leaves no room in case something else comes up. We have been taking more steps to build the general operating reserve, and you can see it increasing. Staff normally throws the green line in here to show the minimum component of best practice, 3 months worth of operating expenditures, and hence the gap. Keep in mind that this does not consider risk analysis for other elements that best practice would tell us to do. What is held in this fund helps a municipality to battle negative events as they come about, and helps to weather the ups and downs, such as significant dips in the economy, as this province is now seeing, or mitigating the effects of potential natural disasters. The new asset management program will bring better information and will support calculations for future capital replacements. There is a good possibility that we will see greater pressures on our reserves. My recommendation to this committee and to future committees through the establishment of new fiscal policy is to put plans in place to begin to lift the red line off the bottom of this graph. This can be accomplished by working to have specific capital reserves, have enough capacity with tax-supported dollars to meet the full major maintenance and replacement needs of assets used to deliver city services. Building the general capital reserve can then be leveraged to help fund the cost of new infrastructure. Establishing better links between capital and operating budget is an area for strengthening. The committee will see this come forward through introduction of multi-year budgets and the development of a long-term financial plan. It is very important, as capital infrastructure needs of the city are planned, that due consideration is given to the resulting operating needs. With every piece of capital, whether it's as simple as a traffic light, an additional vehicle, or a complex roadway, there is an effect on the city's operating budget for maintenance, operating, and funding replacement. These are all costs of growth and sustaining services. This is a typical conversation had through budget deliberation process, and some small steps have been taken through tax stabilization reserves. This municipality has an underlying practice to keep tax rate increases as level as possible so that citizens do not have to experience large spikes in any given year. This will become more and more difficult as the community deals with expensive cost of significant assets and service needs. So that's the end of the overview. I just had one quick slide just to talk about the deliberation process. And noting that through the planning meeting that we had earlier on in this year's cycle, staff has prepared a similar process to last year that we used through deliberation. Each director will make presentation for their area, and discussion and questions can be addressed after each. Staff will track what we like to call the parking lot items and where committee wants further information. We'll do our best if you have questions or items where you're looking for additional information to actually bring that back for the Saturday session as well. It is great if we're able through the Saturday session to actually come to a place where this committee is ready to have a recommended capital budget going to council. It's not imperative though. We do have other sessions for deliberation scheduled, as you know, with the operating, and we can take some time during those periods to finish that if you'd like. Councilors are also encouraged to send questions through myself or Pelkey. What we can do is just ensure that they're addressed as we move through the remainder of the scheduled meetings this week. So let's begin, but begin on Friday. And Pelkey does have, she has copies of the agenda, so she can hand that out if you'd like to talk about that.
Thanks, Lucy. So Lucy, first a question around and this is for future. So all the vehicle, they all base their assumptions on matrices, like 23 out of 27, they use these for. Can somebody will Lauren show us what that matrix looks like? Just take one item and, can you make sure to have that with me?
Absolutely.
Because I'm just curious, because some cars are 14, some are 7 years, some have got a lot less miles than others. It's just hard to determine that. So can I mention what we were talking about earlier today? So there's to council and to budget committee and to members of staff, there is we have one every year, and unfortunately it falls, is the ceremony for the crosses. And because everybody wasn't willing to change the date for a 2 o'clock start on Friday, they were going to get the vast majority of the work done on Friday. Would it be okay if we started the meeting at 11:30 on Saturday to close out the capital portion? So you guys are, instead of starting from 2 until 5, which was proposed, it's now 9 until 5. So we're going to get through the majority, because we were going through it today. I just don't suspect it'll be 2 full days. So in order to do the ceremony, it starts. I have to leave here at 9:30, and then I speak at around 11, and I'm back at 11:15, 11:30. So Kelly was in it at last year, and I think you went too, Ron, I'm not sure.
So you're talking the cross ceremony, Your Worship?
Yes, on
Okay,
veterans.
okay.
So I'm just wondering if it's okay with you guys if we start the meeting at 11:30 rather than 9. We can maybe order sub sandwiches or whatever and have lunch here. So. Yeah? Everybody else, are you okay? I know you are. You guys? Okay, so we'll start at 11:30 on Saturday as the closeout, and we're going to still do, so I think what we did last time, Lucy, was everybody presented, and then we went through it by a division, one by one, and said, okay, who wants to, so we were going to do the parking lot at the end after everyone's done, right? Is that how we did it? That's how we did it last year anyway.
Walk through each directorate, and then you can ask any questions of the director about any of the projects in there. If there's any parking lot items after each, we can.
So you want to do it after each director's presented?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. That works for everybody else? Ronnie? Sorry, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Bellick, Councillor Hunter, good. Councillor Colson, Councillor Burley. Okay, anything else that you two want to add from you or your staff's perspective? Is there anything that anybody needs to see coming forward if you've looked in the binder yet, or? No? Okay.
To remind, we do
Yes,
have
please.
we do have lunch ordered for both days. So if you
Yeah,
start at 11:30, we have lunch.
Well, as I said, I'm hoping to be back here by 2 o'clock on Friday, so at least I can close out the last 3 hours, and we'll probably still be with Lauren then anyway, so. I'm just guessing based on the money. Okay, sorry I came out of my computer here, Sharon. Okay, so item number 3.1, the minutes of September the 6th. And has everybody had a chance to review?
Motion to adopt, Your Worship?
Okay, no other comments? Perfect. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Councillor Burley. And we know when we're meeting next, so We are adjourned.
If I
Get
may,
used
Your
to it.
Worship,
Yes,
I just need to check a couple of meeting dates before you leave.
yes.
I need the most to turn off the.
A wooden piece underneath